Venezuela responds to President Trump's online post that the airspace around the country should be considered closed. Joining us to discuss is Kervin O'Quinn, a former intelligence professional with direct experience in U.S.-Russia relations. During the first Trump administration, he participated in an overt anti-Russia campaign and now hosts the Geopolitical Intelligence podcast, This Week Explained. So good afternoon, Kervin. Your thoughts on President Trump's Truth Social post and the Venezuelan Foreign Ministry calling Trump's comments unjustified aggression against the Venezuelan people?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. It's good to be here. I think the first thing is we have reached a new point in in human history where now social media posts are now foreign policy. Look, I get why Trump was posting that and why he wants to declare Venezuelan airspace closed. It's the only way to get to targeted strikes within the borders of Venezuela. We saw him quoted both times on Air Force One first, and then with troops during Thanksgiving that a ground attack will happen. What I posited was that this is going to happen either through aerial ISR with strikes within Venezuela's borders on targeted locations, facilities that are making or facilitating the movement of fentanyl, things, the illicit drug trade. The other thing is having the USS Gerald R Ford in the region in order to launch strikes from that as well. In order to do that successfully, you need to have aerial control of the battle space, and so that's got to shut it down. But what I'm going to say here is that let's not do this over social media. Let's actually, there is a process, especially within the United States, to make these things happen. And if you are going to direct these strikes, then do it in the right way. Let's not go on Truth Social or X or God forbid, Instagram or TikTok and start declaring things as fact.
Can you imagine if we're getting foreign policy decisions made on TikTok? That would be at another level.
I have so many issues with TikTok, and that would just be so far outside.
I know, right? But let me ask you, can the U.S. actually close another country's airspace? I'm not an expert here, but I don't think that is allowed under international law.
It's not. You'd have to declare war on the country, and then Trump has said that he's ready to declare war. Well, you need Congress to approve that. So what we're looking at here is a possibility of continuing this global war on terrorism that we thought we were done with a few years ago. It's what I participated in for 20 plus years, both as a U.S. military member and within the intelligence community. But the way that this would happen is to get air superiority within a region. And you'd have to do that with various fighter jets. And let me say, the USS Gerald R Ford is the premier military asset to establish air superiority in any region. So if you're looking at these events and you're trying to factor in what might happen within the future, within predictive analysis, look at these things. Look at what is already happening. Look at what's happening in Puerto Rico. We may be very close to using those global war on terrorism legal effects within a region like Central America.
Okay, we have limited time here, so I also wanted to get your thoughts on the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which Zelensky said Russia launched overnight strikes on the Ukrainian capital, killing a person, injuring 19. How are you interpreting Russia apparently ramping up its efforts over the past week?
Yeah, I think what Ukraine is doing here is a smart move. Taking the fight to Russia, as they should continue to do, as they are building a domestic firepower, because they don't know if they're going to have U.S. support in the future. Now, look, As far as Russia, saying that they are getting ready to wrap up the war there in Ukraine, this is something that President Putin has stated recently, but he stated over the last year. He has told. We found out through media reports that Putin has told his top generals that he wants this conflict ended by 2026. Well, we are quickly approaching 2026, and oh, by the way, why would he want this conflict maybe to be either paused or stopped in 2026? There could be another global power that is looking to reach the shores of another sovereign nation and take over a sovereign nation. And I'm obviously talking about Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party looking to take over Taiwan. So Putin might be putting a pause to this conflict in order to support a Chinese invasion of Taiwan.
Wow. I mean, that would just be terrible if that happened. Yeah, maybe I'll ask you a question on that. If China were to decide it's going to invade Taiwan, I mean, how does that benefit China? Because I would imagine in a war, by the end of it, China potentially will be coming out so weak that it would be disadvantageous for China to even start this war.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why a lot of geopolitical thinkers, geopolitical leaders do still have it as unlikely that China would even make a move militarily on Taiwan. What they're looking at is sort of this gray war, cyber warfare on the country. But Xi Jinping has made it clear that before he passes away, before China reaches a point where they no longer have the amount of military-aged males in order to field a military, that he wants to make a move on Taiwan. This is hubris. This is something that he's forward-thinking on. And I think with that hubris, you can put all logic outside of that. And unfortunately, I know that the U.S. military is preparing for this scenario. I would say publicly, I do wish this does not happen. I wish we could all come to some sort of agreement. I do hope, peace through strength happens within the United States, and that we do not see this global conflict that we look like we're rushing towards.
Yeah, let's hope calmer minds prevail in this situation. Let me just ask you one last question on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Do you think it's worth it to say potentially saving thousands of lives, to have Ukraine compromise a bit more in this peace agreement to put an end to this war sooner than later? Or do you think any compromise on Ukraine's part is considered rewarding Russia? What do you think about this?
Wow, well, that's a fantastic question, and I would not want to speak for the people of Ukraine. Understand, I'm not in Ukraine. I've done some intelligence work for Ukraine, but look, at some point you make a great observation there. At some point, the killing has to stop. So what do you take? Can you come to a compromise? Can you push borders back without letting Russia know that they've been successful? And I think that you can. And we've got an episode coming out tomorrow where I talk about this on the podcast, where this sort of this poison pill that Russia could agree to, and then not be able to invade Ukraine any further. We all know Putin wants the entirety of Ukraine and then wants to push more into Poland and into Finland and restore the once, what he would say, great Soviet Union. But if you give Ukraine security guarantees, NATO-like security guarantees, not assurances, but guarantees that if Russia were to invade again, that NATO would send troops, put boots on the ground and fight back against Russia, I think you solve the problem of future aggression, like you didn't do when you told Ukraine to give up all of their nuclear weapons back in 1994.
Okay, Kervin, good discussion today. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Wonderful questions. Always appreciate being here. And as always, stay safe out there.
Thanks.